Welcome to Tort Talk Live. It is John and Marc and Joe Fantini. We have a lot to get into. We are live at Mass Torts Made Perfect in the Wynn. We have a very special episode to bring to you. Joe is a man of the people. He hears all the whispers going around, and we get the inside scoop of what everyone's talking about live here today at Mass Torts Made Perfect. Joe, what are you hearing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be with you back in Vegas.
I'm excited not to be in a bed with you.
Yeah,
again.
no.
I disagree. I would rather be doing this in bed, but I was outvoted in this scenario. So, before we get into the podcast, just a quick heads up. This is the 5th year of Mass Torts Puerto Rico, and if there was ever a year to be there, it's this one. Bigger, bolder, and more powerful. John and I will be in San Juan recording episodes of the John and Marc podcast as the official podcast sponsor. So come see us and say hi at the Condado Vanderbilt May 5th through 7th. 5 years of momentum is cool. Being there for milestones is cooler. Register and get more details at masstortspuertorico.com. For now, let's get back to the episode.
So here we are. Maybe everybody follow along till the October version, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, down on the streets, everybody has, I'd say, a renewed and refreshed energy is kind of going on. We're seeing a lot of new torts out there that are people starting to get involved with. I think part of that's the flow of capital coming into the market. So we had, the private equity era, which might be done and tighten up a little bit, but a lot of people who had money tied up in years in hernia mesh or even Zantac, CPAP, all getting payments. So now that's being reinvested in some of these new cases. And that's what I think a lot of people are excited about so far.
What are the new cases?
Yeah, so the new ones, we've talked about a little bit, but we have Dupixent, we had the Olympic scopes, we have the social media, the video game. Those are probably the ones that people are talking about the most. And then a little bit more mature is Depo-Provera. So we got that one on the rocket docket, but there's still time to get involved with that. So a year ago, none of those 5 were really on anybody's radar. And that's what everybody's kind of getting involved with now.
Yeah, I would say a year ago the mood was very somber. There wasn't a lot of new things popping up. A lot of people, like you said, had money tied up. There's no energy, no momentum really, but there's definitely some buzz going around. I can feel the energy. It's a lot higher right now.
Yeah, it's more exciting, more positive, like you're saying. And, we had some huge verdicts and huge wins, so that always helps, right? Social media, the NEC trial.
There's the opioid settlement that just happened too.
Yeah, that was a big one for a lot of people, $750 million. And then hopefully we're going to maybe be able to break this stalemate in talc, which is the longest running one, supposed to be trying to get some of these bellwether trials scheduled. So I think hope might be the theme of this one. And there's some good opportunities to get involved. So if you guys want to get into each one of those, we can kind of talk a little bit about the lay of the land and what everybody sees with those.
I definitely want to talk about those, but also I think right now there's the Roblox session, or coming up very shortly is the Roblox session. And prior to the start of MTMP, there was a meeting in New Orleans. So you know what happened there?
No, I don't know what happened there.
I don't have the full details on it, but I know that it has brought some additional concerns into the litigation, also opened some things up. I think the CEO was there, or there's discussions with the CEO, but I don't think, through a game of telephone, because I wasn't there, I think what it sounds like is it's going to be a longer battle than people had thought.
And I could see that, right? And, going into these cases, we always think it's going to be quick, easy money, but these huge companies, they have unlimited resources, and a tactic we've seen deploying now is not only stretch out the litigation, stretch out the payment, right? Roundup, they're talking about 20 years for payment.
People are going to be dead before they see that money.
Yeah, we saw it in the 3M ear plug. They're paying over 10 years on some of the cases, so that's part of it. But Roblox definitely is implementing changes. We saw they're going to be implementing.
I think they announced that this week or last week.
Yeah, a couple days ago.
Yeah, requirements for the age verification, maybe under 8 or 9, and then 9 to 15. So what they're doing really there is limiting the liability for future cases, right? So they're not doing that to settle these cases today. They're doing it to shut off these future cases. So what we said they did wrong, they're correcting each one of those mistakes in these updates, which shows obviously they could have done it and should have done it years ago, but now it's like a product manufacturer has the new product on the market. And that's what they're doing. So they'll know, okay, after we get through this wave of cases, we're not going to run into these similar problems. So it's going to be a long fight. I don't see that docket exploding into 10,000 or so. I think, maybe a couple thousand we'll end up with.
What was very interesting about Roblox, we learned because we sat with Jess Herman from Simply Convert and Tor Herman Law, and they had developed a way to actually pull someone's activity history from Roblox based on the username. And she showed us, after we got done filming that episode, like the detail that they're able to grab on the front end when someone signs up a claim. It's super interesting, like now that you're dealing with platforms versus having to go get someone's medical records for a device.
You're pulling in via their login, you're scraping or using an API that already exists to get all the data you need for the litigation.
Yeah, they could tell what experiences they were in, they could tell like how long they were there, they could tell who they interacted with. No, granted, like Roblox is going to say a lot of those, like the sexual assault allegations happened on other platforms. They moved to Discord or they moved to Snapchat, but still you have a lot more data points than you would have in other types of litigations.
Yeah, and we see that too in video game addiction and the social media addiction, that footprint's there, and we can get it as opposed to having, like you said, send out the request for the records to get it. We can get that kind of up front. So I think Roblox, there's some excitement. I think that might be more of a kind of sophisticated mass tort. That's not going to be a case somebody's going to come in and get 10 or 20. That's going to be really run by the firms that know how to handle those tougher cases. It's a good case if you can get it, but I wouldn't recommend everybody listening to us right now to jump into Roblox. It's a harder, more complex case than the typical medical device, Ozempic, Depo-Provera. Those are cookie cutter almost compared to that.
So out of the ones that you mentioned previously, which of those are you most excited about and why?
Yeah, I think, social media addiction, we had the great verdict. And they're making changes to the platform. That's the one most people are excited about. And I think there's 10,000 cases. There easily could be 100,000 cases out there. So the numerosity's there. Framework for a trial is there. There's more trials scheduled. So that's the number one still. Everybody's most excited about it. The ones I mentioned that I think's on the other end of the spectrum is that Dupixent case, right? We've talked about it before. Good case, good signs, but like how many cases are there really going to be? Could we get 1,000, 2,000 cases? Maybe, but we're not going to get over that 10,000 threshold or 50,000 like talc or 100,000 like Roundup. So I would say social media addiction, it's a little bit more mature. And then the brand new one, I know you've spoke to some people about the Olympus one, right? The numerosity's there. The science is going to be there. It's a big defendant, so I think that's another one people are trying to get involved with. There was a good session here earlier today about that.
If anyone's interested in learning more about that, watch our full episode where we sat down with Kelsey Stokes. We went through the entire litigation, what they've learned already from the experts, what Olympus has or has not done to try and stave off these cases. But yeah, you are very correct here. The numerosity absolutely is there. She said 85 to 90% of the market share is Olympus, so effectively anyone who had an endoscopy, a colonoscopy.
Because usually the Achilles heel for the product like litigations is that no one knows what's inside them. They could have been, there's a wide use of an ankle implant or a mesh. It's hard to figure out which one they had because no one freaking knows until after you pull medical records. But
yeah, now there's an 85 to 90% chance.
Yeah, and it's similar kind of idea with the bear hugger, which is flying under the radar. But when you have a manufacturer like 3M who dominates the market and has 85, 90%, going into it, you have that upper hand. It's almost like being able to go in and pour the data, from the Roblox or from the video game addiction platforms to have that first level of proof, before you go and invest in the case. So that's one that's going to be around a lot. We don't have the JPML yet. I know the Dupixent one's pending. I think there's about 25, 30 cases filed in the whole country right now. So that will probably get granted. But like I said, I don't think everybody here is going to get in on that case. But anybody who has Roundup cases, go through your Roundup cases, right? That type of NHL, T-cell, that's a subtype that you're going to have clients in there. So that's a good resource to mine your data, find those clients, see if they use Dupixent. If you have a decent Roundup inventory, you'll come across some of them, but going out marketing on your own to get those, it's going to be a little bit more challenging.
You've leaned into working with PI attorneys and helping them identify cases that are just sitting there from their existing docket. That is one, I think, that is a good one for them to start looking at doing that with.
That's something I noticed here too, right? So instead of at the conference, the private equity money, I think we're seeing kind of that rebirth of the PI firms trying to get involved in mass torts and trying to learn. So that was something I noticed a little bit different on the floor. And some people mentioned it. It was new faces, right? We've been going to these conferences for a while. We've seen the people time and time and time again. But here there's kind of the influx of that single event PI firms. And there's a lot of cases they're just sitting on. They're sitting on Olympus cases. They're sitting on Dupixent cases. They're sitting on social media addiction cases. Like they're just sitting right there. They just need to know what to look for. But they have that relationship with the existing client base who know, like, and trust them. They can send out an email blast. They can get those cases pretty easily and get involved.
I was hanging out and walking through the casino with a person who's been in the industry a really long time. I'm going to leave them out for their sake. But they're like, this is one of the first times I've seen so many new faces. They're like, usually I just run in to talk to the same old people every time. He's like, there's a lot of new faces here that I don't recognize.
I think that could be a good thing, right? We've seen some change in the marketing space and the lending space, and some of the bad outbills maybe are no longer around. You know, some of the people who are doing maybe bad things or didn't have the best product or the best service, they're no longer around. So I think the people who are here, kind of the foundational players, are really solid. And that's why it's beneficial when we get these new people coming in. It's kind of all good actors working together, but they brought some good new energy to the conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for all those cases that you spoke about, for anyone who is interested in getting into any of those litigations or wants to know how to go about mining their data, sending those emails, definitely reach out to Joe. He just touched like the little tip of the iceberg on what he can help you with, but I'm sure, Joe, you're happy to talk to anyone who wants to reach out to you, right?
Yeah, just reach out to me. Happy to go over it, share, case criteria, what we're doing to get the information on these people. But there's a lot of clients out there that need help, and these firms that are just getting involved, like that's an easy way to get involved instead of, maybe spending $100,000, $200,000. I know that could be a little risky or overwhelming.
The cases that people are acquiring now at scale, we did have a big shift. We started talking about this right before we went live. The social media addiction cases, we had that announcement that I believe was Axiom that broke the news, and Meta actually made a public comment, right? They said that we're not going to allow lawyers to target users to try and acquire new cases against Meta through the platform. And you said that people were talking about that downstairs?
Yeah, definitely. People have gotten banned, right? Their accounts on Facebook, and that's very concerning. But people were saying that what they've seen is maybe targeting other platforms on Meta. So if you're on there, maybe targeting people who had problems with Snap or TikTok, and then being able to acquire them and sign them up, and maybe some of those people cross over and then fit that demographic. So, when you're signing somebody up for Roblox, run them through the criteria for video game addiction. Run them through the criteria for social media addiction. It's kind of that cross-pollination, and you'll be able to get some clients. So that was a move. I think, Marc, you said you saw it coming 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It took them a little bit longer to get there. I'm sure they've made hundreds of millions of dollars off of the attorney's marketing.
Yep.
So they're not that upset about it. But we probably saw it coming. You were the first one, I think.
Yeah.
I saw mention it. Everybody's not surprised, but there's other ways. And that's why it's so important to have other channels to get cases, right? You got to get them from referrals, existing clients. Like that costs nothing. Meta, you got to do videos. You got to be on SEO. There's a lot of different channels out there, because if one gets shut off, you could be in trouble if you're depending upon it 100%.
Yeah, that definitely being channel agnostic in your approach and not working only in one single lane and hoping that works forever, because you can see Facebook can shut off the faucet anytime that they want. We do have an actual trial going on right now. I think it's the third Uber Bellwether. They just finished.
Is it a defense pick or plaintiff pick?
I think this is a defense pick.
All right.
They just did jury selection. Right?
Yeah.
It literally just started.
So in North Carolina, we've gotten some favorable rulings so far about the common carrier. In addition to this trial, there's been indications in some of the court filings that other cases are being settled outside of the bellwether picks. So we're not talking about firm inventory, and we're not talking about global yet, but in some of the court filings, if you pay attention, you see that there have been settlements in some of these maybe upcoming bellwether cases. So Uber's positioning changed totally from fight, 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 fight. Then we got the first verdict, and if we can get a second one here, I mean, that's going to have great impact. And just remember, it's not just Uber. There's also the Lyft litigation
Recently
that's coming up
consolidated.
too.
Yeah.
Same players from the plaintiff side. We have the road map for that. So if we can get a good verdict in this Uber third trial, 2 for us, 1 for Uber, that will go a long way. And then I think the next trial is at the next week. I guess the PowerPort one is going to be kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot
Bard
of people excited
PowerPort.
about that.
Yep.
There's about a little over 3,000-ish cases filed there. Just from an attorney's perspective, people might have been a little squeamish of that case because we didn't have like the best result previously in IVC filters, which was Bard, big defendant, similar type theories. So if we could win that one, that would go a long way, but we'll see how it turns out. I think some of the rulings have been positive. I know good trial team, good attorneys.
Yep.
But it's going to come down to what the jury says. And even if we win it, there's 3,000 cases. Could we double it to 6,000? But I don't see it going to that 10,000 threshold. Do you?
I think it depends on like the injuries that wind up, being the ones that really wind up being targeted. Like
Right.
you talk about the comparisons to IVC. Like I understand obviously it's an intravenous
Yep.
device, but it's much more complex than a standard IVC filter, right? Where it just breaks. You're talking about
Yeah.
things that can like completely move, and they're much bigger than a standard IVC filter. So I've liked that case from the beginning. I thought the science was good, and like you said, great team behind it. Rebecca Phillips,
Yeah.
just fantastic.
So I was saying, it's like Bard, same defendant. We're in the same court, same kind of theories overall. So we knew the law of the land a little bit. The science is probably a little bit better, but we see these cases time and time again. Another example is Mirena IUD, which we did 8-10 years ago. Now it's the Paragard IUD. So it's kind of akin to that. These things come around, and what's good for the plaintiffs is, we can learn, and we're constantly learning on what maybe mistakes we made during the litigation or how to really get that pertinent information. So that's the process for the plaintiffs. It's just kind of keep trying, keep pushing them forward, but everybody's excited about the trial dates. Should get some good verdicts there. And with some of these legacy torts maybe wrapping up, it's this kind of era of hope and this new energy coming into the space, which I think will be good for everybody.
I also saw this past week, I'm sitting at home and I'm watching TV, and I saw what initially appeared to be an ad for Roundup. And it wasn't an attorney ad. What it was the court that was advertising the website based on the proposed settlement. It looked just like, the relatively low budget, right, stock footage. And then
You guys know what those commercials look like.
I went to the website, and you get there, and it's not even all set up yet. It's like a holding site. I don't know if they're testing to see like the effectiveness of the ads that they're running, but anyone who's still acquiring Roundup cases, like they need to be aware that, that they are now not only competing with other attorneys looking for those cases, and they're competing with the court that's trying to get people to go directly into the settlement.
Right. Yeah. So maybe not exactly the court advertisement. It would be, I think it's on behalf of the proposed class action or something is the fine line at the bottom. So that's likely paid for by the firms in leadership on the plaintiff side who filed, the defense attorneys as well, kind of like a joint effort there. So I've seen those commercials. I'm hearing a lot of radio advertisements, actually. I don't know if you heard any of those.
I got to listen to the radio first before I hear radio advertisements.
About the settlement. So in Philadelphia, it's huge on the radio, Top Dogs everywhere. James does a great job. He raps and sings for us, but these other
Former
ones
guest
come
on the
out.
John Marc podcast. Great episode. You should watch it.
Yeah, James is a good guy. Amazing with marketing, that's for sure. But I usually hear his commercials, but they started playing the Roundup settlement commercials. So the opt-out deadline's October 4th. So if anybody's got any cases, you want to opt out, need a wet signature by October 4th, and there's a process on the website to upload it. We have the hearing coming up, the oral argument. I think it's April 27th in the Roundup in the Supreme Court. There's a lot happening there. People are still getting cases. I don't know if that's the best investment right now, but there's cases out there. I'm still getting a bunch of them.
As you get towards the end of any of these litigations, like, yes, they're going to be more competitive to acquire. Yes, they're going to be more expensive. But if you get one, the path is much clearer.
Yeah, and the timeline to payment is less. So, you know, a lot always going on in mass torts, but we are in kind of the upswing. So I think it's got a good energy out there. So I think it's been a good conference overall.
Some positive feedback. We've been stopped by multiple people that love our Tort Talk segment who listen to it every week for the updates.
Good.
They had questions about the power rankings. They had questions about individual episodes. They like that it's a nice, tight 10 minutes, the best 10 minutes in all of Mass Torts every week to get the updates. A lot of people, a lot of positive feedback, Joe.
Good. Well, I'm glad to do this with you guys. People do love the Tort Talks. Everybody talks to me about it. So it's good to share what we're seeing. We got a unique perspective from me handling the cases and you guys kind of doing the marketing, seeing what people are into. It's a good blend to give people this honest advice because there's plenty of cases out there. There's plenty of people to help. So we're happy to steer them in the right direction.
I think we need to get you a nickname soon. Like Joe the Oracle Fantini.
Joe does law.
Joe does law.
Yes. We'll see. We'll work on something.
So no pillow talk, but Randy wanted to do another gimmick. So here he comes with...
I might have to put you into custody for that one.
We tried to find tortellini.
Thank you.
And instead, Randy shows up with, by the way, before you open your box, before we went live, Randy tried to hand this to us, and he dropped one of the boxes on the floor. So I'm going to see who actually got the box with the upside-down tort. Is it me?
Mine's gorgeous.
Mine looks good too.
Yep, and mine does not. So I'll just have a strawberry. But happy MTMP. Thanks for watching another episode of Tort Talk. Joe, safe travels back to Philly. And we will see everybody at Mass Torts Puerto Rico in a couple weeks.
Yep, we'll be there live again.